When entering FilePro processing, define processing, we'll pick the file we want to work on, and let's pick number 2, input processing. Remember, this is going to be the processing that happens when the user is looking at a FilePro record from one of your databases, in this case, a customer database. How you can manipulate the user and the data that he sees and inputs is all governed by this table. You can pretty much take complete control of the user, move them around the screen, change what they do, help what they do, enhance what they do. You can certainly hurt what they do depending on how you do things. This is the FilePro table that I'm so enamored of. This is the processing editor. It's called Cabe, C-A-B-E. Don't even ask why, although I guess I should tell you. I once asked Howard Wolowitz the reason for why this was called C-A-B-E. It was originally called Cabe, and I thought it meant something. I said, does it mean something like create algebraic Boolean expressions? And he looked at me very funny and started laughing. He said, no, and told me that when he was first designing FilePro, he was sitting at his kitchen table with his cousin Abe, or his uncle Abe, I think it was his cousin, and he said he was showing him how easy it was to design in his new product called Profile. Actually, it was called Electric File Clerk at the time. He said, well, if I wanted to design processing for this, or I would do it this way. And he started with a file, and he said, well, why don't I just call it, I want to create some processing. How about if I call it Create Abe? So he called it AB. C-A-B-E, his cousin's name is AB. He called it Create AB, and C-A-B-E is what it stayed for 25 years. Lately, it's been called DCabe because another gentleman named Dave Roger wrote his version of the program, and it was a little bit more enhanced than the original Cabe, and he called it DCabe because I suppose he's a megalomaniac and wanted his own name involved. Now he's a very nice man, and that's how it became DCabe. You don't ever see these low-level system names generally if you use the FilePro menu. When you go into a file to pick define processing, you're actually running a program called DCabe. You hit enter, and that's where you're in. You're in a program called DCabe. So again, I've hit 2, input processing. Why do I like this editor so much? Because I feel it has broken down the basics of programming, the basics of programming into just about the most atomic paradigm. I don't want to use a big word, but it's just about the most atomic thing you can do inside a language is what this table says. It basically says, if this is true, and you can type some stuff, if, blah, 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 whatever you type, if that thing on that line evaluates to true, then do this. Whatever is here, basically. This concept of if this is true, do this line of code. And if it's not true, don't do this line of code that I'm on. If you find that this if line right here evaluates to false, then don't do this line and drop to the next line and test this if line. Drop to the next element. That's the second element. If this line of code right here on this if line is true, then do this one. If not, drop to this if line and test this. And it's basically that simple. That's all you do is you're writing many, many, many if-then elements. And what are you putting on these elements to make things happen? That's what FilePro processing is all about. That's what we're going to learn. You basically work with the data in the file, with the fields in the file. That's the most basic thing you can put on a FilePro file is a database field. To see the fields, if you look at the bottom prompt, so you press F6, these are the fields in our VG customer database. They're all numbered 1 through 21. So if I wanted to work with one of these fields on this file, I can refer to it as its number. For instance, if I wanted to refer to the customer type, you remember customer type was, I'm going to resolve these fields just like we were resolving screens. I'm going to resolve what these fields, what their edit types are by pressing F5. All right, and if you look over at field number 20, which is the customer type field, we see that that's a 1C type. Remember we said that we defined an edit that says this is either going to be a dealer or a customer. So field 20 is either going to be a D or a C, correct? Remember that? Okay. If I put field 20 somewhere on the processing table, and I can only put fields in either an if or a then line, if I put that there, that means I want to know what are the contents, what's in field 20 on this particular record. Remember, the input table works against the record that the user is standing on. And it gets activated in a certain way, and I'll show you that in a moment. But if I put field 20 here, I'm not wanting 20. I'm wanting whatever's in 20, which is either going to be, if you remember, a D or a C, right? Okay. So I'm going to say something like, just to give you a very rough idea, if I said if 20, and I'm going to use the word EQ, is equal to a D, remember, we're putting that in quotes, it's a literal D. If 20 is equal to a D, I could say show and then over on this line, I'm going to have no if line, I'm going to end my processing. Do you see that this says if what the value found in field 20 is equal to a D, then and only then do I want you to show, and I put a little @ sign here, and I don't even need this space, I just put the little @ sign and I wrote, this person is a dealer. Okay, and then I'm going to fall through to the next if line and test it. Well, there's nothing to test on this if line, so it's completely true. In other words, if there's not, it's true. If you leave an if line blank, then the then line will happen. And in this case, I want the program to end. So as soon as I test this field and print on the screen or show on the screen whether this customer is a dealer or not, I'm going to then fall through to the next if line, find out there's nothing to test, so I'm going to do the then line, which is end. Let me show you how this works. Press escape, and I'm saving this processing table. And I'm also doing this thing which says create runtime table. I always press yes to that. And I'm not going to hard copy this screen, this processing. I don't need to see it. I'm going to say no. And I'm not going to go for a cross-reference hard copy. So I'm going to say no. And back out of that table. If I went and hit input processing now, again, you'll see that it's stored what I said. If 20 is equal to D, then show @ sign, this person is a dealer. Now let's see what this does. I'm pressing delete. I'm going back to the main menu. Let's go into our file, B inquart add VG, and I'm coming here. I'm going to go to screen record 1. Okay, I'm on record 1, and I'm going to go to screen 1 so we can see a little bit more data. Remember, we put some stuff here up at the top. Okay, we can clearly see that this person is a dealer. It's not showing us that anywhere. Input processing functions once the user presses U to update, or he's in a brand new record and he's adding records. Input processing functions after he's moved all around the screen. The actual thing called input processing works when they save the record, when they press escape. I'm going to press that now to save the record, escape. Look what happened. At the bottom of the screen it says this person is a dealer. Do you see the @ sign? No, I put the @ sign there because the @ sign at the very beginning of a show statement inside the quotes means not only show this stuff that I want to show, but put right after it the words press enter to continue and pause everything right there until the user presses enter. This is a very simple program. I mean, it's only one line. It tests whether there's a D in that field 20, and if there is, it prints that there. It's not very useful, but it's giving you an idea, a concept about FilePro that I want to give you. And remember, I'm not here just to teach you syntax. I'm here to teach you how things function and how they work. If I were to press update on this record and press escape, absolutely nothing happens. I just went right back to the enter selection prompt. Why? Well, obviously the type, this is not a dealer. If I press the down arrow, press update here, and escape, again, you know, it's nothing happened there. Just that enter selection because I'm not on a record that has a D in that field. Very nice to see this happen properly when I press update, escape. This person is a dealer. It did exactly what I told it to do, nothing more, nothing less. And that is what is so great about FilePro programming. FilePro processing does what you tell it to do and doesn't do what you don't tell it to do.